The stagecoach lurched to a stop in front of the general store in Watsonville, Kansas, and Marianne Bradford clutched her baby brother tighter against her chest as dust swirled around them like a brown fog. She stepped down carefully, her worn boots touching the hard, packed earth of this frontier town that would somehow become her home. Timothy whimpered in her arms, his small face scrunched against the bright afternoon sun of August 1877. At 18 months old, he was too young to understand that their parents were gone. That cholera had swept through their Ohio town like the angel of death. That Marianne, at 22 years old, was now all he had left in this world. The advertisement had seemed like providence when she found it in the newspaper 3 months ago. Rancher seeking wife, must be of good character and strong constitution. Children welcome. She had written immediately, her hand shaking as she penned the letter, wondering if she should mention Timothy. In the end, honesty won out. She explained everything in careful script, how her parents had died, how she had a baby brother who depended on her, how she would work hard and be a good wife if only someone would give them both a chance. Cole Wright had written back within 2 weeks. His letter was brief, but not unkind. Bring your brother. I have room enough for a family. The wedding will be arranged upon your arrival. Now she stood in the dusty street, looking around at the rough wooden buildings that made up Watsonville, wondering which direction would take her to the right ranch. Timothy started fussing, pulling at her hair with sticky fingers. "Excuse me, miss." A deep voice came from behind her, and Marianne turned to see a man approaching. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders that strained against his work shirt. His hat shadowed his face, but she could see a strong jaw covered in a few days' worth of dark stubble. He removed his hat as he drew closer, revealing brown hair that curled slightly at the ends and eyes the color of creek water after a storm. "Are you Marianne Bradford?" he asked, his voice gentler than she expected from such a large man. "I am," she said, straightening her spine despite her exhaustion. "And you must be Cole Wright." "Cole," he said simply. "Everyone calls me Cole." His eyes moved to Timothy, and something flickered across his face. Not displeasure exactly, but something she could not quite read. "This is your brother, Timothy," Marianne said, feeling suddenly defensive. "He is a good baby. Quiet mostly. He will not be any trouble, I promise." Cole stepped closer, and Timothy turned his face to look at the stranger. The baby's blue eyes, so like their mother's, studied Cole with the serious expression that sometimes made Marianne's heart ache. Cole reached out slowly, and Timothy grabbed his finger with a surprisingly strong grip. "Strong little fellow," Cole said, and then his eyes met Marianne's again. "He is my son now, too." The words hit Marianne like a physical thing. She had expected tolerance, perhaps grudging acceptance. She had not expected this immediate claim, this simple statement that redrew the boundaries of their small family to include this stranger. "I do not understand," she said quietly. Cole gently extracted his finger from Timothy's grasp and picked up her trunk from where the stagecoach driver had deposited it. "You are to be my wife. That makes Timothy my responsibility, my son. It is not complicated, Miss Bradford." "I thought perhaps you might see him as an obligation," Marianne admitted as they began walking down the main street. "Something you agreed to but did not truly want." "I would not have agreed if I did not want it," Cole said. He glanced at her, and she saw warmth in those gray-green eyes. "My ranch is 5 miles out. I have a wagon waiting at the livery. I hope the journey was not too difficult." "It was long," Marianne said honestly. Timothy was growing heavy in her arms, and she shifted his weight. "But we are here now, and that is what matters." Cole stopped walking and turned to face her fully. "May I?" he gestured to Timothy. Marianne hesitated. She had not let anyone else hold her brother since they left Ohio. but something in Cole's expression, patient and kind, made her nod. She transferred Timothy into Cole's arms, showing him how to support the baby's head and back. Cole held Timothy with surprising confidence for a bachelor rancher. "I had younger siblings," he explained, catching her questioning look. "Before the war. My sister died of fever when I was 16, and my brother was killed at Antietam. My parents passed soon after, one right after the other. Broken hearts, I think, though the doctor called it pneumonia." "I am sorry," Marianne said softly, understanding now why his letter had been so accepting of her circumstances. He knew what it meant to lose family, to be left alone. "Life out here is hard," Cole said, resuming their walk toward the livery. "Losses come with the territory. But so does the chance to build something new, something better. I have been alone on that ranch for 5 years now, and it is past time I had a family again." They reached the livery, where a sturdy wagon waited. Cole's horse, a massive buckskin gelding, was already hitched. Cole settled Timothy in Marianne's arms while he loaded her trunk, then helped her up onto the wagon seat. He climbed up beside her, took the reins, and clicked his tongue to get the horse moving. The town fell away behind them as they headed west into rolling prairie dotted with cattle. The afternoon sun was hot, but a breeze kept it from being unbearable. Timothy dozed against Marianne's shoulder, lulled by the wagon's motion. "Tell me about your ranch," Marianne said, needing to fill the silence. 1,500 acres, Cole said, his voice taking on a note of pride. "About 200 head of cattle right now, though I am hoping to expand. I have 3 hired hands who live in the bunkhouse. Good men, all of them. There is a main house, built it myself after I bought the land. It has 4 bedrooms, a proper kitchen, and a parlor. Nothing fancy, but it is solid and keeps the weather out." "It sounds wonderful," Marianne said, and it did. After months of scraping by in a boarding house in Ohio, selling off her parents' belongings one by one to feed herself and Timothy, the thought of a real home seemed almost too good to be true. "There is a woman in town, Mrs. Henderson, who helps with sewing and mending when I need it. She said she would be happy to help you get settled, teach you what you need to know about managing a ranch house. I figured you might want another woman to talk to sometimes." The consideration in his words touched Marianne deeply. "That is very kind." "I want you to be happy here," Cole said simply. "And I want Timothy to grow up strong and healthy. That is all I am asking for in return." "What about what you need?" Marianne asked before she could stop herself. "What about companionship and everything else that comes with marriage?" Cole was quiet for a moment, his hands steady on the reins. "I hope that will come in time," he said finally. "I am not expecting you to fall into my bed tonight, Marianne. We are strangers, but I am hoping we can become partners and maybe eventually more than that. I am willing to wait for however long it takes." Marianne felt warmth spread through her chest. She had been so afraid that her new husband would expect immediate intimacy, that he would see their marriage as a transaction where he had already paid his price by accepting Timothy. But Cole was offering her something far more precious, time and patience. "Thank you," she said quietly. The right ranch appeared on the horizon as the sun began its descent toward evening. The house was larger than Marianne expected, a 2-story structure painted white with a wide porch wrapping around the front. Behind it stood a barn, a bunkhouse, and several smaller outbuildings. A garden plot sat to one side of the house, currently full of late summer vegetables. "It is beautiful," Marianne breathed. "It is home," Cole said, and she heard the satisfaction in his voice. 3 men emerged from the bunkhouse as the wagon approached. They were all roughly Cole's age, weathered by sun and hard work. Cole introduced them as Jack, Pete, and Samuel. They greeted Marianne respectfully, and each of them grinned at Timothy, who had woken up and was looking around with wide eyes. "Welcome to the Wright Ranch, madam," Jack said. He was the oldest of the three, with silver threading through his dark hair. "It will be nice to have a woman's touch around here again." "And a little one," Pete added. He was shorter than the others, stocky and strong. "Place has been too quiet." Cole helped Marianne down from the wagon and carried Timothy while she followed him into the house. The interior was clean but sparse, clearly the home of a man who spent more time working than decorating. The furniture was functional, the floors swept but bare of rugs. "I know it needs a woman's touch," Cole said, setting Timothy down carefully in a chair. "I have been saving money. Whatever you need to make it feel like home, just let me know." Marianne walked slowly through the rooms, taking it all in. The kitchen had a good stove and plenty of cabinet space. The parlor had a fireplace and several comfortable chairs. Upstairs, Cole showed her the bedrooms. "This one is the largest," he said, opening a door to reveal a spacious room with a big bed and a wardrobe. "I thought you and Timothy could take it. I will move my things to one of the other rooms." "You do not have to do that," Marianne protested. "This is your house." "It is our house now," Cole corrected gently. "And I meant what I said. I am not going to rush you into anything you are not ready for." He paused, then added, "There is a small room right next to this one that would work well for Timothy once he is old enough for his own bed. For now, I figured you would want him close." Marianne felt tears prick her eyes. Every word, every action from this man showed a thoughtfulness she had not dared hope for. "Thank you, Cole, for everything." He smiled, and it transformed his face from merely handsome to something that made Marianne's heart skip. "Let me bring up your trunk and then I will see about getting some supper started." "I can cook," Marianne said quickly. "That is, if you have food in the house." "Pantry is well stocked," Cole assured her. "But you have been traveling all day. Why do we not work on it together tonight?" They went back downstairs, and Cole retrieved Timothy from the chair where he had been sitting, content to look around at his new surroundings. In the kitchen, Marianne found the pantry did indeed contain plenty of supplies. She located eggs, flour, and some preserved ham. Within an hour, she had prepared a simple but hearty meal. They ate at the kitchen table, and Marianne fed Timothy bits of bread and egg that she had mashed soft for him. Cole talked about the ranch, his plans for the future, the rhythms of ranch life. He spoke easily without arrogance, and he asked her questions too, about her childhood, her parents, what she liked to do. "I enjoy reading," Marianne admitted, "though I had to sell most of our books before we left Ohio." "There is a small library in town," Cole said, "and I have a few books upstairs, mostly about ranching and cattle, but there are some novels too. You are welcome to anything I have, and we can get more when we go into town." After dinner, Marianne cleaned up while Cole brought in her trunk. Timothy was getting fussy, exhausted from the long day. Marianne took him upstairs to the large bedroom and found that Cole had already moved his belongings out. A basin of fresh water sat on the dresser, and clean towels were laid out. She changed Timothy into his nightshirt and settled him into the center of the big bed, surrounding him with pillows so he would not roll off. He was asleep within minutes. Marianne washed her face and hands, changed into her own nightgown, and then sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly uncertain. A soft knock came at the door. "Marianne, may I come in?" "Yes," she called quietly. Cole entered, still fully dressed. He had washed up too. His hair was damp and his face clean-shaven now. He looked younger without the stubble, and Marianne realized he could not be much older than 30. "I wanted to say good night," he said, staying near the door, "and to tell you that the preacher can come out day after tomorrow to perform the ceremony. I sent word while you were on your way here, but if you need more time, I can delay it." "Day after tomorrow is fine," Marianne said. She had known this was coming, had agreed to it in her letters. But suddenly, it felt very real. Cole must have seen something in her face because he crossed the room and knelt beside the bed, bringing himself to her eye level. "We will take this slow, Marianne. The ceremony is just words, just making it legal. Everything else happens when we are both ready." "You are very patient," Marianne said. "I am practical," Cole replied with a slight smile. "I want a real marriage, not one built on duty and obligation. That takes time." He reached out and gently touched Timothy's sleeping hand. "And I meant what I said earlier. He is my son now. Not someday, not eventually, right now." "Why?" Marianne asked. "Why are you being so kind about this?" Cole was quiet for a moment, his eyes on Timothy. "When my siblings died, I would have given anything for someone to step in, to care about them the way I did. To help carry the weight of loving them. I know what it is like to be alone with that responsibility. You do not have to be alone anymore." Tears spilled down Marianne's cheeks before she could stop them. Cole pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to her, but he did not try to comfort her physically. He simply stayed there, patient and steady, until she had cried herself out. "I am sorry," she said, wiping her eyes. "It has been such a long few months." "You do not have to apologize for having feelings," Cole said. He stood up slowly. "Get some rest. Tomorrow I will show you around the ranch properly, introduce you to the animals. Timothy can come too if you want, or Mrs. Henderson offered to watch him for a bit." "I would like him to come," Marianne said. "He should learn this place too. Sounds good." Cole moved toward the door, then paused. "Good night, Marianne." "Good night, Cole." After he left, Marianne climbed under the covers next to Timothy. The bed was comfortable, the room peaceful. She could hear the gentle sounds of the prairie through the open window. Crickets, the distant lowing of cattle, the whisper of wind through grass. For the first time since her parents died, she felt something that might have been hope. The next morning dawned clear and bright. Marianne woke to sunlight streaming through the window and Timothy patting her face with his small hands. She dressed them both quickly in simple work clothes and went downstairs to find Cole already in the kitchen, frying bacon and eggs. "Morning," he said with a smile. "Coffee is ready if you want some." They ate breakfast together, and then Cole took them outside for the promised tour. He carried Timothy on his shoulders, and the baby laughed with delight at being up so high. They visited the barn first, where Cole introduced Marianne to his horses, the buckskin gelding named Buck, a pretty paint mare named Daisy, and 3 other working horses. "You ride?" Cole asked. "I did when I was younger," Marianne admitted, "but it has been years." "Daisy is gentle," Cole said. "When you are ready, I can give you lessons. It is important out here to be able to ride. Distances are far, and sometimes a wagon is not practical." They continued to the chicken coop, where a dozen hens scratched and pecked. Marianne was delighted to find she would have fresh eggs daily. Cole showed her the garden, the root cellar, the smokehouse, and finally took her out to see some of the cattle. The morning passed quickly, and by the time they returned to the house for lunch, Marianne felt she had a better understanding of what her new life would be like. It would be work, certainly, but it would also be purposeful. She would be contributing to something real, building a life alongside this kind, patient man. That evening, after Timothy was in bed, Cole asked Marianne to sit with him on the porch. The stars were coming out, brilliant against the darkening sky. "Tell me something about yourself that you think I should know," Cole said. "Something that was not in your letters." Marianne thought for a moment. "I am afraid," she admitted. "Afraid that I will not be good enough at this. I have never run a ranch house before. I have never been a wife." "What if I fail? Then we figure it out together," Cole said simply. "I have never been a husband or a father before either. We are both learning." He turned to look at her. "What else?" "I sing," Marianne said. "Badly, according to my father, but I enjoy it anyway." "I used to sing to Timothy all the time back in Ohio." Cole smiled. "I would like to hear you sing sometime, even if it is badly." "Your turn," Marianne said. "Tell me something about you." "I am afraid too," Cole said. "Afraid that you will wake up one day and regret coming here. Afraid that I will not be able to give you the life you deserve." "I think you are already giving me more than I deserve," Marianne said softly. "Then we are both being foolish," Cole said with a gentle laugh. "We should probably stop underestimating ourselves." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the night sounds. Finally, Cole stood and offered his hand to help Marianne up. "Big day tomorrow," he said. "The preacher is coming after lunch. Mrs. Henderson will be here in the morning to help you get ready, and she is bringing a dress if you need one." "That is very thoughtful of her," Marianne said. "She is excited to have another woman in the area," Cole said. "I think you will like her. She is kind and very no-nonsense." They said good night at the top of the stairs, and Marianne went to her room feeling settled in a way she had not expected. Tomorrow she would marry Cole Wright. The day after that, she would truly begin her new life. Mrs. Henderson arrived mid-morning in a small wagon driven by her husband, a quiet man named Thomas who tipped his hat to Marianne and then went to talk with Cole about cattle prices. Mrs. Henderson herself was a sturdy woman in her 50s with iron gray hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. "So you are the mail-order bride," she said, looking Marianne up and down. "And that is the baby brother I heard about." Timothy was playing on the floor with some wooden blocks Cole had found for him. He looked up at Mrs. Henderson with his serious expression. "His name is Timothy," Marianne said, feeling defensive again. Mrs. Henderson's stern face softened. "He is a handsome little fellow, and you are a good sister to bring him with you." She set down the bundle she was carrying. "Now let us see about getting you ready for your wedding. I brought several dresses. One of them should fit you well enough." The dresses were beautiful, much finer than anything Marianne had worn in months. She chose a simple blue one that brought out her eyes. Mrs. Henderson helped her with her hair, pinning it up in a way that was both practical and pretty. "Cole Wright is a good man," Mrs. Henderson said as she worked. "He has had a hard time of it, losing his family the way he did, but he has built something solid out here. You could do far worse." "I know," Marianne said. "He has been very kind." "Kind is good," Mrs. Henderson said, "but do not mistake kind for weak. Cole is strong where it counts. He will protect what is his." The words should have sounded ominous, but somehow they were comforting. Marianne wanted to be protected, to belong somewhere again. The preacher arrived just after lunch, a cheerful man named Reverend Mills who had clearly performed many frontier weddings. He set up in the parlor, and Cole's ranch hands came in as witnesses. Jack, Pete, and Samuel had all cleaned up, their faces shining and their hair slicked back. Cole stood at the front of the room in his best shirt and pants, his hands clasped in front of him. When Marianne entered with Timothy in her arms, his face lit up in a way that made her breath catch. He looked at her like she was something precious, something worth celebrating. The ceremony was brief and simple. They exchanged vows, Cole's voice steady and sure, Marianne slightly shaky. When Reverend Mills pronounced them husband and wife, Cole leaned in and gave Marianne a chaste kiss on the cheek. "Welcome to the family, Mrs. Wright," he murmured. Mrs. Henderson had prepared a small wedding feast, and everyone ate and drank and toasted the new couple. Timothy was passed around among the ranch hands, who treated him with surprising gentleness for such rough-looking men. Samuel produced a harmonica and played a few tunes, and Jack actually convinced Marianne to dance, spinning her around the parlor while everyone clapped. Cole cut in smoothly, taking Marianne's hand and pulling her into a simple waltz. "You look beautiful," he said as they moved. "You clean up pretty well yourself," Marianne replied and was rewarded with a laugh. "This is nice," Cole said, "having people here celebrating. The house has been too quiet for too long." "It will not be quiet anymore with Timothy around," Marianne warned. "He is getting more vocal every day." "Good," Cole said firmly. "A house should be full of noise and life." As the evening wore on, the guests gradually departed. Mrs. Henderson was the last to leave, giving Marianne a quick hug. "You come find me if you need anything," she said, "and I will be by next week to check on you." Finally, Marianne and Cole were alone with Timothy. The baby was overtired and fussy from all the excitement. Marianne took him upstairs and got him ready for bed, singing softly until he finally fell asleep. When she came back downstairs, Cole was cleaning up the last of the dishes. "Here, let me help," Marianne said, picking up a towel to dry. They worked in companionable silence until everything was clean and put away. Then Cole turned to her, his expression serious. "I know this is our wedding night," he said, "but nothing has to happen. We can continue as we have been." Marianne surprised herself by reaching out and taking his hand. "I would like to try," she said softly, "if you would. Not everything, but maybe we could talk. In your room, I want to know more about you." Cole's face showed surprise and then pleasure. "I would like that very much." They went upstairs together. Cole's new room was smaller than the main bedroom but still comfortable. He had a chair by the window, and he sat in it while Marianne perched on the edge of his bed. "Tell me about the war," she said. "You mentioned your brother died at Antietam." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "I do not talk about the war much." "You do not have to if you do not want to," Marianne said quickly. "No, it is all right." Cole leaned back in his chair. "I was 17 when it started. I wanted to go fight immediately, but my father made me wait until I was 18. By then, Charlie was old enough to come too. He was 16 and lied about his age." His voice grew rough. "We fought together for nearly a year. I thought I was keeping him safe. But at Antietam, we got separated in the chaos. I found him afterward, already gone. He was only 17 years old." "Cole, I am so sorry," Marianne said, her heart breaking for him. "I came home after that," Cole continued. "Could not stand to be there anymore. My parents understood, but they were never the same. They died within 3 months of each other in early 1863. My sister had already been gone for 3 years by then. Suddenly, I was alone. So you came west." "So I came west," Cole confirmed. "I had money from selling the family farm. I bought this land and started over. Built everything you see from nothing, and for 5 years it was enough. But lately, I have been thinking about what comes next, about legacy and family, about not wanting to die alone out here with no one to remember me. That is why you sent for a bride." "That is why I sent for you," Cole corrected, "and I am glad I did. Even if we are still figuring out how this works, I am glad you are here." Marianne stood and crossed to him, acting on impulse. She leaned down and kissed him gently on the lips. It was brief, barely more than a touch, but she felt something spark between them. "I am glad I am here too," she said. Cole reached up and cupped her face gently. "We are going to be all right, Marianne, I believe that." "So do I," she whispered. They talked for another hour, sharing stories and dreams. Finally, Marianne's yawns became too frequent to ignore, and Cole sent her off to bed with a goodnight kiss that was slightly longer than the first. Marianne fell asleep next to Timothy, feeling like maybe, just maybe, she had found where she belonged. The next weeks fell into a rhythm. Marianne woke early to prepare breakfast for Cole and the ranch hands. Cole would head out to work the cattle, often not returning until late afternoon. Marianne spent her days learning the ins and outs of running a ranch house. She baked bread, tended the garden, collected eggs, and did laundry in the big copper tub behind the house. Timothy was her constant companion during the day. He was walking now, toddling around the house and yard, getting into everything. Cole had built him a small fence around a section of the porch so he could play safely outside while Marianne worked. In the evenings, Cole would come home dusty and tired. He always went straight to Timothy first, scooping the toddler up and talking to him about his day as if Timothy could understand every word. Then he would clean up, and they would have dinner together, the three of them at the kitchen table. After Timothy went to bed, Marianne and Cole would spend time together. Sometimes they sat on the porch and talked. Sometimes they read in the parlor. And increasingly, they would retire to one room or the other and continue the slow, careful process of getting to know each other. Cole kissed her more often now, and Marianne found herself looking forward to those moments. His kisses were patient but passionate, showing her that he wanted more but would wait until she was ready. One evening, about 6 weeks after their wedding, Marianne was putting away clean clothes in Cole's room when he came in from his bath. His hair was wet and he smelled of soap and leather. "Sorry," she said. "I was just finishing up." "You do not have to apologize for being in here," Cole said. He crossed to where she stood and took the shirt she was holding from her hands, setting it aside. "Marianne, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy here, truly?" Marianne looked up at him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. "Yes," she said honestly. "I never expected to be this happy, but I am." "Good," Cole said, and then he kissed her. This kiss was different from the others, deeper and more urgent. Marianne responded, her arms coming up around his neck, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "I am falling in love with you," he said quietly. "I did not plan on it happening this fast, but it is happening anyway." "Cole," Marianne whispered, her heart full. "You do not have to say anything back," he said quickly. "I just needed you to know." "I think I am falling in love with you too," Marianne admitted. "It terrifies me because I did not expect it, but it is true." Cole kissed her again, and this time when he guided her toward the bed, she went willingly. They made love slowly, carefully, learning each other in this new way. Afterward they lay tangled together, both a little awed by what had just happened. "Stay here tonight," Cole said. "We should stop pretending we are not married." Marianne smiled against his chest. "Let me go check on Timothy first." She slipped into the main bedroom and found Timothy sleeping soundly. She moved him to the smaller adjoining room that Cole had gradually been converting into a nursery. Then she went back to Cole's room and climbed into bed beside her husband. From that night on, they shared a bed. And if some of the ranch hands noticed and grinned knowingly, they had the good sense to keep their comments to themselves. The summer turned to fall, and the ranch flourished. Cole made a good profit on his cattle, and he invested the money back into the ranch. He hired 2 more hands and bought more land. Marianne started a proper chicken flock and planted a winter garden. Timothy celebrated his 2nd birthday in October with a small party that included Mrs. Henderson and her husband, the ranch hands, and several families from town. By the time winter arrived, Marianne knew she was pregnant. She told Cole one evening after Timothy was asleep, and he picked her up and spun her around the kitchen, laughing with joy. "A baby," he kept saying. "We are having a baby. Are you happy?" Marianne asked, though she could see the answer on his face. "I am more than happy," Cole said. "I am blessed." The winter was hard, as all Kansas winters were. Snow piled up around the buildings, and the temperature dropped below freezing for days at a time. But the house was warm and well stocked, and Marianne found she did not mind being snowed in with her small family. Timothy learned new words almost daily, and his favorite was Papa, which he used exclusively for Cole. Cole took his role as father seriously, spending hours playing with Timothy, teaching him things, soothing him when he was upset. "You are wonderful with him," Marianne said one evening, watching Cole help Timothy build a tower of blocks. "He is easy to love," Cole replied. "Both of you are." In March, when the snow finally melted and the prairie began to turn green again, Marianne went into labor. Mrs. Henderson came to help, along with the town doctor. Cole paced the downstairs like a caged animal, holding Timothy and trying to keep the toddler distracted from the sounds coming from upstairs. After 12 hours of labor, Marianne gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Cole came upstairs the moment Mrs. Henderson called for him, and he sat on the bed next to Marianne, tears streaming down his face as he looked at his son. "He is perfect," he whispered. They named him Charles, after Cole's brother. And just as Cole had claimed Timothy as his own, Charlie became part of their family without question. Timothy was fascinated by his new baby brother, always wanting to touch him gently and bring him toys. That summer, Cole added on to the house, building a larger dining room and another bedroom. The ranch continued to grow, and with it, their family's prosperity. Cole bought Marianne a piano from back east, having remembered her mention that she used to play as a child. She was rusty, but she practiced every day, and soon the house was filled with music. When Charlie was 6 months old, Marianne found herself pregnant again. This time, she gave birth to a daughter in late spring of 1879. They named her Sarah, after Marianne's mother. She had Marianne's dark hair and Cole's gray-green eyes, and she was absolutely spoiled by her father and both her brothers. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. The ranch prospered year after year. Timothy grew into a smart, capable boy who loved the ranch and everything about it. By the time he was 7, he was helping with simple chores and learning to ride. He never questioned that Cole was his father, because Cole had been there for as long as Timothy could remember. Charlie was quieter than Timothy, more thoughtful, but he adored his older brother and followed him everywhere. Sarah was fierce and stubborn from the moment she could walk, keeping her 3 male family members on their toes. One evening in the summer of 1883, Marianne stood on the porch watching Cole teach Timothy how to properly rope a fence post. Charlie sat on the porch steps, watching intently. Sarah was on a blanket nearby, playing with her doll. In the kitchen, bread was rising for tomorrow's breakfast. Mrs. Henderson, who had become one of Marianne's dearest friends, sat in the rocking chair beside her. "You have built a good life here," she said. "We have," Marianne agreed. "Better than I ever dreamed possible when I stepped off that stagecoach 6 years ago." "Cole is a different man than he was before you came," Mrs. Henderson observed. "He was good before, but he was lonely. Now he is happy." "I am happy too," Marianne said softly. That night, after the children were all in bed, Cole and Marianne sat together on the porch swing he had built the previous summer. The stars were bright overhead, and the night air was warm and gentle. "You ever think about how different things could have been?" Marianne asked. "If I had not answered your advertisement, if you had not written back all the time," Cole admitted. He pulled her closer, and she rested her head on his shoulder. "I think about how close I came to living my whole life alone, how Timothy would have grown up without a father, how Charlie and Sarah would never have existed." He kissed the top of her head. "I am grateful every single day that you got on that stagecoach." "So am I," Marianne whispered. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of the prairie night. Inside, their children slept safe and warm. The ranch stretched around them, a testament to hard work and dedication. And between them flowed the love that had started tentatively, but had grown into something unshakable. The years continued to pass. each one bringing new joys and challenges. In 1884, Marianne gave birth to another son, whom they named Thomas after Mr. Henderson, who had passed away that winter. In 1886, twin girls arrived, much to everyone's surprise. They named them Elizabeth and Margaret, and the house suddenly felt full to bursting. Cole expanded the house again, adding a second story with more bedrooms. The ranch now employed 15 men and covered 5,000 acres. Cole's cattle were known throughout Kansas for their quality, and he had contracts with buyers as far away as Chicago. Timothy, now a young man of 15, was invaluable on the ranch. He had Cole's work ethic and Marianne's kindness, and the ranch hands respected him despite his youth. He was already talking about taking over the ranch someday, about building on what Cole had created. "You know he is not actually my blood," Cole said to Marianne one night. They were in their bedroom, finally alone after putting 6 children to bed. "But I could not love him more if he were." "He is your son in every way that matters," Marianne said, "and he worships you." "The feeling is mutual," Cole said. He pulled Marianne into his arms. "I think about that day you arrived sometimes, how I saw you standing there with this baby in your arms, looking so tired and brave and scared. I knew right then that I was going to love you both." "You said he was your son after knowing us for 5 minutes," Marianne remembered. "Because he was," Cole said simply. "Just like Charlie and Sarah and Thomas and the twins are, family is not always about blood. Sometimes it is about choice." In 1888, tragedy struck when a late spring storm brought flash flooding. Cole and several of the ranch hands were out checking on cattle when the water rose. They all made it back safely except for Jack, who had been with the ranch since the beginning. He was swept away trying to save a calf trapped in a ravine. The loss hit everyone hard. Jack had been a fixture on the ranch, a friend and mentor to the younger hands, a beloved uncle figure to the Wright children. They buried him on a hill overlooking the ranch, and Cole carved a beautiful headstone. The tragedy reminded Marianne how quickly life could change, how precious every moment was. She held her children closer, kissed her husband more often, and tried to appreciate the everyday moments that made up a life. In 1890, Timothy turned 18, and Cole officially made him a partner in the ranch. Marianne threw a big party, inviting everyone from town and all the neighboring ranchers. Timothy stood next to Cole as they announced the partnership, and the pride on both their faces brought tears to Marianne's eyes. "You have done so well with him," Mrs. Henderson said to her during the party. She was older now, her hair completely white but still as sharp as ever. "Both of you have. He makes it easy," Marianne said. "He is such a good young man." "He had good parents," Mrs. Henderson said firmly. That night, after all the guests had gone home and the younger children were in bed, Cole, Marianne, and Timothy sat on the porch together. The August heat had finally broken with the sunset, and a cool breeze made the evening pleasant. "Thank you," Timothy said suddenly, "for everything. For taking us in, for raising me, for giving me all of this." Cole reached over and gripped Timothy's shoulder. "You do not have to thank me. Being your father has been one of the greatest privileges of my life." "I do not remember much about before we came here," Timothy admitted. "Just bits and pieces, but I remember feeling scared all the time, and then we met you and suddenly I was not scared anymore." "You were not even 2 years old," Marianne said softly. "I did not realize you remembered anything." "Just feelings mostly," Timothy said. "But I remember the feeling of being safe. That is all because of you, Pa." Cole cleared his throat roughly. "You have grown into a fine man, Timothy. Your parents would be proud of you. Your birth parents, I mean." "You are my father," Timothy said firmly, "in every way that counts. I never think of anyone else when I think about my parents. It is always you and Ma." After Timothy went to bed, Marianne and Cole stayed on the porch. "That boy is going to make us grandparents someday," Cole said with a slight smile. "Do not rush it," Marianne laughed. "I am not ready to be a grandmother yet." "You will be a wonderful grandmother," Cole said. "Just like you are a wonderful mother and a wonderful wife." "You are not so bad yourself," Marianne teased, leaning in to kiss him. The years continued their relentless march forward. In 1892, Charlie turned 15 and started taking on more responsibilities around the ranch. Sarah, at 13, shocked everyone by announcing she wanted to learn to break horses like her father and brothers. Cole, to his credit, taught her, though Marianne worried every time her daughter climbed on a half-wild horse. The younger children grew too. Thomas showed an aptitude for numbers and helped Cole with the ranch accounts. The twins, Elizabeth and Margaret, were inseparable and spent their days exploring every inch of the ranch. In 1894, at 17 years old, Timothy met a girl at a church social in town. Her name was Anna Peters, and she was the daughter of a farmer whose land bordered the Wright ranch. Timothy was smitten immediately, and within 6 months he asked Cole's permission to propose. "Of course you have my permission," Cole said. "But more importantly, do you have Anna's father's permission?" "I am going to ask him tomorrow," Timothy said nervously. The wedding was held in the spring of 1895, a beautiful outdoor ceremony on the ranch. Anna was a sweet, practical girl who fit into the Wright family as if she had always been there. She and Timothy moved into a new house Cole had built for them on the far side of the ranch property. In 1896, Anna gave birth to Cole and Marianne's first grandchild, a boy they named Coleman after his grandfather. When Cole held little Coleman for the first time, Marianne saw tears in his eyes. "What is wrong?" she asked softly. "Nothing is wrong," Cole said. "I am just thinking about how this little boy exists, because his grandmother was brave enough to get on a stagecoach with her baby brother 17 years ago. About how one decision, one act of courage, led to all of this." Marianne slipped her arm around her husband's waist and looked down at her grandson. "I was not brave, I was desperate." "You were both," Cole said, "and I thank God for it every day." The turn of the century brought changes. The frontier was closing. Kansas was fully settled now, with towns and roads and railroads crisscrossing the prairie. The wild days were over, replaced by something more civilized but perhaps less romantic. Cole was in his 50s now, his hair more silver than brown, but he was still strong and vital. He had handed over most of the daily running of the ranch to Timothy and Charlie, though he still went out with them more days than not. Marianne had gray in her hair too, and laugh lines around her eyes. Her hands were work-roughened, but she still played piano every evening. The house was often full of noise and life, with grandchildren running around and the older children visiting frequently. In 1901, Sarah married a young rancher from the next county over. Her wedding was as big as Timothy's had been, with half the county in attendance. She and her husband settled on his family's ranch, and Sarah continued to break horses, earning a reputation as one of the best in the region. Charlie followed his older brother into marriage a year later, wedding a teacher from town. Thomas, the twins, and another daughter born in 1890, whom they had named Patricia, were all still at home, though the older ones were beginning to court seriously. One evening in the summer of 1903, Cole and Marianne found themselves alone on the porch, a rare occurrence these days. The younger children were at a social in town, and the married ones were at their own homes. "It is quiet," Marianne observed. "Too quiet," Cole agreed. "I keep expecting someone to need something." They sat in companionable silence for a while, listening to the familiar sounds of the ranch at dusk, Finally, Cole spoke again. "I have been thinking about that day we met," he said. 26 years ago now. You know what struck me first about you?" "What?" Marianne asked. "Your eyes," Cole said. "They were exhausted and worried, but they were also determined. You were not going to let anything stop you from taking care of Timothy. That kind of strength is rare, and I knew I wanted it in my life." "I thought you were terrifying," Marianne admitted with a laugh. "You were so big and serious looking. But then you held Timothy and you were so gentle, and you said those words that changed everything." "He is my son now too," Cole quoted. "He is my son now too," Marianne repeated. "In that moment, I knew I had made the right decision coming here." "We have built a good life," Cole said. "Better than I ever hoped for." "We have," Marianne agreed. She leaned her head on his shoulder the same way she had done thousands of times over the years. 7 children, 4 grandchildren so far, a thriving ranch. We did all right, I think." "More than all right," Cole said. He tilted her face up to kiss her, and even after 26 years, Marianne felt that same spark she had felt the first time. The years continued to bring both joy and sorrow. In 1905, Mrs. Henderson passed away peacefully in her sleep at the age of 78. Marianne mourned the loss of her dear friend, but she was grateful for all the years they had shared. More grandchildren arrived. Timothy and Anna had 3 more children. Charlie and his wife had 4. Sarah had 2, and each of the younger Wright children married and started families of their own. The ranch house was constantly full of visiting grandchildren, and Cole and Marianne loved every chaotic minute of it. In 1910, Cole and Marianne celebrated their 33rd wedding anniversary. The family threw them a huge party, with children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren filling every corner of the house and spilling out onto the lawn. Timothy gave a speech, his voice strong and sure. 33 years ago, my mother made the bravest decision of her life. She got on a stagecoach to Kansas to marry a man she had never met, and she brought me with her. And the man she married, my father, said 5 words that defined who he was as a person. He is my son now too. Those words gave me a father, gave me a family, gave me this life. Everything I am, everything I have, comes from the love and sacrifice of these 2 people. So please, join me in toasting the best parents anyone could ask for." Everyone raised their glasses, and Cole looked at Marianne with eyes suspiciously bright. "How did we get so lucky?" he whispered. "We chose each other," Marianne whispered back, "and we kept choosing each other every day for 33 years." The party lasted well into the night, with music and dancing and laughter. Marianne danced with all her sons and sons-in-law, and Cole danced with all their daughters and daughters-in-law. But the last dance was for each other, the 2 of them moving slowly in the parlor while their family watched with fond smiles. "I would do it all again," Cole said as they danced. "Every single moment, even the hard parts, because they led us here." "So would I," Marianne said. 1,000 times over, I would choose you." The ranch continued to prosper under Timothy and Charlie's management. Cole officially retired in 1912 at the age of 62, though he still walked the property daily and offered advice when asked. Marianne spent her days baking for her ever-growing number of grandchildren and playing piano for anyone who wanted to listen. They were sitting on the porch one evening in 1915 when a young man rode up on a fine horse. He was perhaps 25 years old, tall and broad-shouldered like Cole had been at that age. He dismounted and approached the porch with his hat in his hands. "Mr. and Mrs. Wright?" he asked. "Yes," Cole replied. "My name is Peter Bradford. I am Marianne's nephew, her late brother's son. I have been trying to track down family, and I finally found records that led me here." Marianne stood up slowly, her heart racing. She had not heard from her family back in Ohio in years, had lost touch with everyone after her parents died. Michael had a son. Yes, madam. He married in 1885, had me and my sister. He died 2 years ago, and I have been trying to connect with what family we have left. I did not know about you until I found some old letters. They invited Peter to stay for dinner, and he told them about his life, about his father Michael, who had spoken rarely of his siblings but always with love. He stayed for 3 days, getting to know the sprawling Wright family, marveling at how much they had built. Before he left, he pulled Marianne aside. "My father would have been proud of you," he said, "for what you did for Timothy, for the life you built here. He always regretted that he was not there when your parents died, that he could not help you." "Tell your sister she has family here," Marianne said. "Tell her to visit any time. We have plenty of room and family is always welcome." After Peter left, Cole found Marianne in their bedroom, looking at an old photograph of her and Timothy from their first year on the ranch. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I am," Marianne said. "It is strange, though. That old life feels like a dream now, like it happened to someone else. This is my real life. You, our children, this ranch. Everything else is just shadows." "Good shadows or bad shadows?" Cole asked. "Just shadows," Marianne said. "The past made me who I am, but it does not define me anymore. This defines me." She gestured around them at the house, at the photographs of their family that covered every surface, at the life they had built together. Cole wrapped his arms around her from behind, and they stood together looking out the window at the ranch they had built, the family they had created, the legacy they would leave behind. The years moved on. By 1920, Cole and Marianne were in their 60s, still healthy but definitely showing their age. The ranch was now run entirely by the second generation, with the third generation learning the ropes. There were 16 grandchildren and 8 great-grandchildren, with more on the way. They had settled into a comfortable rhythm, Cole and Marianne. They woke late, had breakfast together, and spent their days doing whatever pleased them. Cole worked in the garden he had planted. Marianne sewed and baked and played with the great-grandchildren who were always underfoot. In the evenings, they still sat on the porch together, watching the sun set over the prairie they had made their home. And every night, they told each other the same 3 words they had been saying for over 40 years. "I love you." One particularly beautiful evening in June of 1923, Timothy came to visit with his oldest son Coleman, who was now a grown man of 27 with children of his own. They sat on the porch together, 4 generations of the Wright family. "Tell us the story again," Coleman said. "About how Grandma came to Kansas." Marianne and Cole exchanged a smile. They had told this story hundreds of times, but it never got old. "It was August of 1877, Marianne began. "I was 22 years old, and I had just lost my parents to cholera. I had your Uncle Timothy, who was not even 2 years old yet, and no way to support us both. I was selling off everything my parents owned just to keep us fed. And then she saw my advertisement," Cole continued. "Rancher seeking wife, must be of good character and strong constitution. Children welcome." "I almost did not write," Marianne said. "I was so scared. What if he changed his mind when he found out about Timothy? What if he was cruel? What if I was making a terrible mistake?" "But she wrote anyway," Cole said, pride evident in his voice. "And I wrote back and told her to come, to bring her brother. And when she arrived, dusty and exhausted from days of travel with a baby in her arms, I looked at her, and I knew my life was about to change." "What did you say to her, great-grandpa?" Coleman asked, even though he knew the answer. "He said, 'He is my son now, too,'" Timothy answered, his voice thick with emotion. "5 words that gave me a father and changed my entire life." And then we got married 2 days later, Marianne continued. And slowly, carefully, we built this life, this family, this legacy. It was not always easy, Cole added. There were hard times, droughts and floods and cattle prices dropping, accidents and illnesses and losses, but we faced all of it together, and that made all the difference. The lesson, Marianne said, looking at her great-grandson, is that family is not always about blood. It is about love and choice and commitment. Your great-grandfather chose to be Timothy's father before he even knew us, and that choice echoed through generations, creating all of you. I would not be here without that choice, Coleman said. None of us would. Exactly, Cole said. So when you have children, you tell them this story. You tell them about the mail-order bride who arrived with her baby brother, about the rancher who said he is my son now too. You tell them about how love and family are built one choice at a time. They sat together as the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. 4 generations of a family that had started with one brave woman and one kind man, both willing to take a chance on each other. That night, after everyone had gone home, Cole and Marianne lay in bed together. Cole's arm was around Marianne's shoulders, her head resting on his chest. They were both quiet, comfortable in the silence that comes from decades of companionship. I have been thinking, Cole said finally. About what? About how grateful I am. For every day, every moment, for the life we built together. I know I do not say it enough, but Marianne, you made me happier than I ever thought I could be. Marianne lifted her head to look at him. You gave me and Timothy everything. A home, a family, a life full of love and purpose. I am the grateful one. How about we both agree we are grateful and leave it at that? Cole suggested with a smile. Deal, Marianne agreed, settling back against him. They drifted off to sleep together as they had for 46 years, content and loved and exactly where they belonged. The years continued to pass gently. Cole and Marianne celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary in 1927 with a party that seemed to include half of Kansas. All 7 of their children were there, along with all 16 grandchildren and 12 great-grandchildren. The local newspaper even sent a reporter to cover it, running a story about the mail-order bride and the rancher who had built one of the most successful ranches in the state. 50 years, Cole marveled as they cut the cake. Half a century with you, and it still does not feel like enough. We will just have to make it to 75 years then, Marianne said with a smile. It is a deal, Cole promised. They did not quite make it to 75 years, but they came close. Cole passed away peacefully in his sleep in 1932 at the age of 82. He had been working in his garden the day before, playing with his great-great-grandchildren the day before that. He simply went to sleep next to Marianne and did not wake up. Marianne mourned him deeply, but she also celebrated the incredible life they had shared. The funeral was attended by hundreds of people, all of whom had been touched by Cole's kindness and generosity over the years. Timothy gave the eulogy, now a man of 55 with silver hair and his father's steady presence. My father taught me that family is built on love and choice, he said. He chose to love my mother when she was a stranger. He chose to be my father when he had no obligation. He chose, every single day, to build something beautiful and lasting. And because of those choices, all of us are here today. We are his legacy, living proof that one person's kindness can ripple through generations. After the funeral, the family gathered at the ranch house. It was bittersweet, being all together without Cole, but there was also comfort in numbers. Marianne sat in her favorite chair, surrounded by children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and she felt Cole's presence in every corner of the house they had shared. She lived another 3 years, staying in the ranch house with a rotating cast of family members always there to keep her company. She played piano almost every day, her fingers still nimble despite her age. She told stories to anyone who would listen, making sure the family history was preserved. On a warm evening in May of 1935, Marianne passed away quietly in her sleep at the age of 80. She was buried next to Cole on the hill overlooking the ranch, their headstones side by side just as they had been in life. The Wright Ranch continued to thrive, now run by the third generation with the fourth learning the business. The house that Cole built still stood, expanded and updated but fundamentally the same. And on summer evenings, the family still gathered on the porch to watch the sunset and tell the story of the mail-order bride and the rancher. Timothy lived to be 92, dying in 1965 surrounded by his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. Before he died, he made sure each of them knew the story, knew how they came to be part of this family. "Your great-great-grandmother was the bravest woman I ever knew," he would tell them. "She had nothing but a baby to care for and a dream of something better. And your great-great-grandfather was the kindest man who ever lived. He saw two strangers and immediately claimed them as his own. That is what this family is built on, bravery and kindness. Never forget that." And they did not forget. Generations later, the Wright family still gathered at the ranch for reunions. They still told the story of Marianne and Cole, of the mail-order bride who arrived with her baby brother, of the rancher who said he is my son now too. The story became family legend, passed down through the years, a reminder of where they came from and what they were built on. The ranch itself remained in the family, carefully tended and improved by each generation. The original house was preserved as a historical site, with Cole and Marianne's bedroom kept exactly as it had been, a museum to their love story. And on summer evenings, when the family gathered on the porch to watch the sunset paint the Kansas prairie in shades of gold and orange, they could almost feel the presence of those two brave souls who had started it all. The mail-order bride who took a chance on a stranger. The rancher who opened his heart to a woman and her baby brother. The couple who built a love story for the ages, one choice, one day, one moment at a time. Their legacy lived on in every person who carried their blood or their name. It lived on in the ranch that still bore the Wright name after more than a century. It lived on in the values they had instilled: kindness, hard work, the belief that family is built on love rather than obligation. And if you visited the cemetery on the hill overlooking the ranch, you would find two headstones side by side. Coleman Wright, 1850–1932. Beloved husband, father, grandfather, he chose love, and next to it Marianne Bradford Wright, 1855–1935. Beloved wife, mother, grandmother, she chose courage. Together, they had chosen to build something beautiful. And that beauty echoed through time, a testament to the power of love, choice, and two people willing to take a chance on each other and on the future they could build together.